There are few impulses as human as the desire to explore the unknown, to feel our heart race in the face of something that is beyond our control. For many, traveling is not just about changing places. It is opening up to the raw experience, one that challenges the senses and reminds us how fragile we are in the face of the world. But what exactly drives a person to seek danger? Choosing destinations where safety is almost an illusion. Curiosity about dangerous countries, or a deep instinct to prove yourself capable? These are questions that don't always have obvious answers, but that reflect the courage or madness that many carry. Now click like and subscribe to the channel. It will only take a second, and you will help us. It's interesting how danger calls to us in an almost hypnotizing way. Think about those butterflies in your stomach when you imagine a devastated city, a sea that swallows boats, or a mountain where air escapes. Each of these destinations, these remote and risky places, doesn't just offer us a stunning view, it presents a challenge. These are places where history and nature meet in unforgiving settings. Why then, when faced with so many safe and pleasant places, are we attracted to the unknown, and sometimes to what seems to be unacceptable? Some say it's the adrenaline, but maybe it's something deeper. It can be a search for personal redemption, a moment of reunion with one's own spirit, or simply the need to see up close what one cannot control. It's the kind of experience that transcends the landscape and becomes a silent duel between who we are and what we fear. In places where life is fragile and nature displays its strength in a brutal way, we are in contact with what is purest in the universe. A curiosity about countries, about each story that lies there, transforms the simple trip into a ritual of courage. And for some, this curiosity mixes with the desire to immerse themselves in their own limits, on the edge between the safe and the unknown. When someone chooses to enter a place where risk is not just a word, but a constant presence, they are indulging in a mix of terror and fascination. This is the beginning of our journey through the most dangerous destinations on the planet. Those who challenge our fears, our desires, and, most importantly, our curiosity about what lies beyond the ordinary. And so, we are led to our first encounter with the unexpected, a destination where the danger is as real as the beauty around. There are places that seem marked by time, and Chernobyl is one of them. Anyone who observes the ruins and deserted streets realizes that, behind each abandoned building, there is a story that whispers memories of a city that was once full of life. But Chernobyl is more than a curious fate over a country. It is a symbol of the invisible force that nature and technology can exert on human beings. Walking through its streets is to feel the weight of the past and the fear of the invisible, as radioactivity is still present, dormant but lethal, spreading a danger that cannot be seen but is always lurking. It's almost ironic how, despite the dangers, many are drawn to this ghost town. The fascination with what is forbidden, with the curiosity of a country in ruins, seems to captivate the minds of those who seek the unusual. Every step taken in Chernobyl is like a flirtation with the invisible, a dance with an enemy you can't see or touch, but is always there. It's the type of extreme tourism that makes us question the limits of our courage and common sense. Why would anyone choose to venture into a place where air can be their enemy? But for some, the danger is part of the charm. The desolate landscape, the silence that echoes through the deserted streets, all of this creates an otherworldly atmosphere. It's as if Chernobyl is a living reminder of how fragile human control is over the forces it creates. Those who venture there carry with them a kind of silent, almost reverential respect, as if they know they are visiting a sanctuary of memories and tragedies. Perhaps this search for radioactivity is, deep down, a desire to be close to something uncontrollable, to feel insignificant in the face of a world that continues, even after the departure of human beings. For visitors, Chernobyl is more than a tourist spot. It is an emotional experience, a journey to the limits of one's being, amidst ruins that speak of a past era and a dangerous present. But it is this type of curiosity about countries that defy limits, that takes us to places where life itself seems to be at stake, that makes this place so emblematic. And so, we head to another destination, where the notion of safety is as scarce as the air itself. A point in India where isolation speaks louder than any known risk. Imagine a small island surrounded by deep waters, where time seems to have stopped. In North Sentinel, one of the most isolated places in the world, lives a tribe that lives as it has for thousands of years, refusing any contact with the outside world. This is the last refuge of an untouched culture, guarded with fierce resistance. For the curious person seeking to understand the secrets of a country, this piece of land is a sanctuary of mysteries. There, the danger is not invisible as in Chernobyl, but direct and implacable. Any attempt to approach it can be met with hostility and violence. The isolation of these inhabitants goes beyond a choice. It is a lifestyle that resists all the pressures of the modern world. In the 21st century, North Sentinel is an echo of the past, where the unknown still reigns and awakens curiosity about countries where progress simply does not reach. For many, the fascination lies precisely in this prohibition. After all, how can you resist the attraction of what you cannot have? But few understand the real meaning of getting closer to a community that chose, so long ago, to distance itself from the rest of the world. It's strange to think that, on the same planet where satellites orbit around and cities never sleep, there is a place where customs remain unchanged and where the presence of a stranger is a threat. It's not just geographic isolation that makes North Sentinel a risky destination. It is cultural isolation, a true invisible wall that keeps out any intruder. Every visitor who dares to explore these limits needs to understand that they are in sacred territory, where every inch of land belongs to a people who prefer silence to contact. The country's curiosity to get to know this isolated culture demands deep and unshakable respect. To those observing from the outside, this remote island represents more than an exotic locale. It challenges the very human nature of exploring, of breaking barriers. Here, it is not the visitors who impose the rules, but the inhabitants, who maintain their customs with a determination that is, in itself, fascinating. The North Sentinel reminds us that even in a hyper-connected world, there are still secrets and barriers that challenge our courage. And speaking of challenging frontiers, let's now go to the icy peaks of a place that represents the pinnacle of human overcoming. Mount Everest. Mount Everest is an imposing giant that seems to touch the sky, a challenge that echoes the human desire to conquer the impossible. For many, climbing Everest is a dream come true, a feat that carries prestige and courage. But this desire is fraught with danger. The thin air, the biting cold, and weather conditions that change without warning. There, where the altitude challenges even the best prepared, Everest becomes a fight between the human body and nature. It is the curiosity of a country with one of the most iconic mountains in the world. But it is also the encounter with the extreme limit of our resistance. The height alone commands respect. Above 8,000 meters, in the so-called death zone, the air is so thin that the body begins to waste away. It's a place where every step requires enormous effort, and every breath seems insufficient. Stories of survival and tragedy intertwine on the trails of Everest, where many have lost their lives in search of the summit. And yet, there is something about that mountain that calls, that seems to say, "Come if you can." Perhaps for some, the true motivation is not just the view from above, but proving to themselves that they can overcome the unimaginable. Everest is also a reflection of how humanity explores the unknown, no matter the cost. People come from all over the world, curious about Nepal and its colossal mountain, but the climb is a constant battle against body and mind. Everest is not kind to the unprepared. It demands the most, and even the most experienced can encounter a fatal obstacle. Every meter conquered on the way up is a test of resistance and faith, a sign that whoever climbs there is willing to face everything, including the risk of their own lives. For those who reach the summit, Everest offers a transformative experience, a sight few are privileged to see. But when descending, each climber knows that the mountain always wins, and that no one truly conquers it. Everest allows temporary visits, leaving a deep mark on those who dare to reach its top. And now, we move towards a new type of challenge, where extreme heat tests even the most fearless. Death Valley, in the United States. Death Valley does not bear this name by chance. Located in the California desert, this is one of the hottest places on Earth, where the sun burns like nowhere else. The heat is oppressive, almost unbearable, as if every particle of air is charged with an invisible fire. For those who are curious about countries and their extreme landscapes, Death Valley is a constant reminder of the limits that the human body can withstand. Each step on the cracked ground requires resistance, and even the best prepared feel the impact of the heat that never lets up. Temperatures in Death Valley reach extreme levels, reaching levels that few can imagine. It has been hotter than 50 degrees there, and even the shade seems insufficient to alleviate the burning sensation. Anyone who ventures into this desert must be aware that thirst and exhaustion are not just discomforts, but real threats. Some explorers, driven by country curiosity and the desire to test their endurance, brave this earthly hell just to say they survived Death Valley. But there, carelessness is fatal and the heat is unforgiving. There are reports of adventurers who tried to cross the Valley of Death and found themselves consumed by fatigue, unable to continue. A simple miscalculation, such as a lack of water or an unsuitable vehicle, can be enough to put a life at risk. And, interestingly, even knowing this, there are those who seek this extreme experience. Each journey through the valley is a test of courage and respect for nature in its cruelest state. The dust that rises with the wind and the solitude of the arid landscapes give the valley an almost surreal atmosphere, as if each grain of sand told the story of those who passed through there. For some, Death Valley is not just a desert. He is a symbol of nature's unbreakable power over man. Each visitor feels, even if for a moment, that the earth dictates the rules, not human beings. And while the valley tests physical endurance, our next destination, in Ethiopia, challenges those who have the courage to approach a lake where the lava itself flows without stopping. The Erta Ale volcano. The Erta Ale volcano in the heart of Ethiopia is a terrifying spectacle. Known as the window to hell, this volcano is one of the few in the world with a lake of lava in constant boiling, a true sea of fire in motion. The surrounding temperatures are intense, and the smell of sulfur, thick in the air, envelops every step. For those who are curious about countries with extreme landscapes, visiting Erta Ale is witnessing nature in its most brutal and fascinating form. The sight of burning lava, flowing incessantly, makes even the most fearless feel human insignificance in the face of this natural power. This volcano is not just an attraction, he is a constant risk. The instability of tectonic plates means that Erta Ale is in continuous movement, and fissures in the Earth's crust release vapors that make the place even more hostile. For anyone who dares to venture there, it is essential to be prepared, as one false step can lead directly to danger. This type of risky tourism attracts people who want a unique experience, something that goes beyond the conventional. And anyone who passes through Erta Ale with the curiosity of a country and the courage of an explorer, takes with them the memory of having approached the primordial fire. But the danger of Erta Ile goes beyond lava. High temperatures don't just affect the body. They can cause mental confusion and make it difficult to perceive your surroundings. The intense heat and thin air make even the most experienced feel the pressure. The solitude of the surrounding desert adds a touch of mystery, as if this were a place where time has stopped. For those seeking to understand nature and its fury, Erta Ale offers a vision of what is most ancient and uncontrollable on Earth, where the lava refuses to go out and continues to boil, like a constant warning. Upon leaving the volcano, any visitor feels the change in the air, the relief of returning to safety. But the memory of Erta Ale remains, as a visceral experience that transforms. And, for those looking for another test of courage, there is another destination on our path, where danger creeps in at every step. Ilha da Queimada Grande, in Brazil, known as the Island of Snakes. Ilha da Queimada Grande is a place that inspires fear just by its name. Also called Snake Island, it is located about 35 kilometers off the coast of Brazil and holds a deadly secret. There lives one of the largest concentrations of venomous snakes on the planet, including the legendary island Jararaca, whose bite is lethal. Curiosity about countries leads some to imagine that they could visit this piece of land, but the danger that lurks at every step is as real as the poison that circulates in the teeth of these snakes. Anyone who dares to set foot there risks never leaving. This piece of land is off-limits to common tourism. The snakes, protected by geography and legislation, make the island one of the most inhospitable places in Brazil. For scientists who get permission to study the local ecosystem, every move is calculated, every step a risk. The feeling of walking through a territory dominated by deadly creatures is like being in a silent arena, where the slightest carelessness can cost you dearly. And there is something unsettling about knowing that this danger is everywhere, in every branch, every stone, every patch of ground that seems harmless but can actually harbor a lethal threat. Stories of attempts and failures surround Ilha da Queimada Grande, where fishermen and curious onlookers who approached ended up inevitably encountering danger. The reports of those who had the chance to set foot on the island speak of constant tension, of vigilance that never ceases. It is as if nature itself had placed a barrier there, an implacable defense against human presence. Curiosity about Brazil and this island in particular arouses the fascination of adventurers and lovers of danger. But the reality is that few have the courage to face the island up close. For those who observe from a distance, Ilha da Queimada Grande is an enigma shrouded in silence, a place where human life has no place. Each wave that hits the rocks seems to whisper a warning. There, nature rules without mercy. And so, we leave Snake Island to head towards another form of threat, this time in the treacherous waters of the Norwegian Sea, where giant waves and storms await the most daring. In the Norwegian Sea, the tranquility of the waters hides dangers that can challenge even the most experienced navigators. This is a place where the sea transforms into an indomitable force, with gigantic waves and sudden storms that can swallow vessels in a matter of minutes. For those curious about countries and their treacherous waters, the Norwegian Sea is a reminder that the ocean, despite its beauty, can be deadly. Whoever decides to sail there needs to be prepared to face powerful currents and a natural force that makes no distinction between the bold and the unprepared. The waves in this sea, known for reaching impressive heights, appear out of nowhere, surprising even the most attentive sailors. They are not just a visual spectacle, represent a real and deadly danger. Many who dared to defy the Norwegian Sea found themselves at the mercy of forces they could not control. Amid the turmoil, the feeling of impotence is overwhelming, as if nature, in an act of pure instinct, reaffirmed its superiority. And it is this mix of fear and fascination that continues to attract adventurers, who see an opportunity to face what few dare. The survivors have stories that seem straight out of legend, with vivid descriptions of dark nights and seas that seem to have a life of their own. Reports speak of vessels almost capsized, of crews holding on with all their strength to avoid being carried away. Every moment there is a fight for life, where even the slightest carelessness can mean the end. For those who listen to these stories, curiosity about the country and its waters transforms into a deep, almost reverential respect for the Norwegian Sea and its submerged secrets. The Norwegian Sea challenges our perception of control and security. He reminds us that the ocean is one of the last frontiers where humans remain vulnerable. And as we leave the cold, choppy waters behind, we now head to a place where danger is not on the horizon, but in the towering heights of Afghanistan's Hindu Kush Mountains, where the challenge takes on a new level. The Hindu Kush Mountains are as majestic as they are challenging. A mountain range that cuts across Afghanistan with its towering peaks and atmosphere of mystery. For those who are curious about countries and their unexplored landscapes, this region evokes a fascination with the unknown, but also carries with it immeasurable risks. Up there, among the clouds and absolute silence, the air is rarefied, the cold is severe, and the terrain is unforgiving. Anyone trying to reach these heights feels the weight of loneliness and the constant tension of a place where any step could be the last. The trails are treacherous, and challenges accumulate with each meter conquered. It is not uncommon for explorers to encounter rock slides and trails that suddenly disappear, making navigation a true test of patience and skill. There are those who say that these mountains have an inaccessible beauty, as if they were created to keep humans away. Venturing through the Hindu Kush means being aware that every decision counts, and one false move can be fatal. Still, the desire to explore the inhospitable attracts those who yearn to see the world from a little explored angle. This region is not only challenging because of its geography, it is also marked by the constant tension of a territory located in a conflict zone. The Hindu Kush Mountains are at the heart of a region where security is as scarce as oxygen. For those who take the risk, the reward is a breathtaking view, an encounter with untouched landscapes, and an almost spiritual connection with an environment that remains hostile and beautiful. To the explorer, the Hindu Kush is more than a mountain. It is a symbol of resistance and courage. Each step towards the top of these mountains represents a personal victory, a reminder that some beauty requires sacrifice. But upon descending, the traveler's heart still longs for a new challenge, a new landscape of extremes. And, on our next stop, we find the most famous and deadliest desert on the planet, where the sands of the Sahara do not forgive the unprepared. The Sahara Desert is a golden expanse that stretches as far as the eye can see, a place where the heat is intense and the silence is almost absolute. This is the type of destination that attracts adventurers and awakens curiosity about countries that are home to such extreme landscapes. But the Sahara is not just a sea of sand. It hides hidden dangers in its dunes and dry air. Those who dare to cross it find an unforgiving environment where the sun is a constant threat and where even water, so vital, is a rarity that makes all the difference between life and death. Sandstorms are one of the Sahara's biggest challenges, appearing suddenly and covering everything in a matter of minutes. They are like walls of sand that swallow the horizon and turn day into night. Many are lost in these storms, disoriented and without resources to survive. The country's curiosity leads some to challenge these deadly sands, but you need to be aware of what you are facing. Crossing the Sahara requires preparation and a deep respect for the strength of the desert, where the slightest slip can be fatal. In addition to the heat and storms, there is the issue of exhaustion. Walking under the relentless Saharan sun exhausts even the most resilient. Each step feels draining, as if the sand has the power to suck the energy from whoever tries to tame it. Thirst and fatigue become inseparable companions, and mental resistance is tested at every moment. Crossing the Sahara is not just a physical ordeal, it's a psychological challenge that separates the adventurous from the unsuspecting. There, the desert shows that the beauty of its dunes is as deceptive as it is dangerous. And so the Sahara remains an enigma for those seeking something beyond comfort, a journey where the challenge is as intense as the reward. But now, we leave the desert behind and sail towards the Alboran Sea, a treacherous stretch of water between Spain and Morocco, where deceptive currents await ocean explorers. The Alboran Sea, between the coasts of Spain and Morocco, is a territory where currents hide a subtle danger. This apparently harmless strait has seen countless shipwrecks throughout history, with vessels being swallowed by the waters without warning. For those curious about countries and their mysterious seas, the Alboran Sea is an enigma of unpredictable waters and treacherous winds. Navigating there requires experience, as the sea, in seconds, can transform a peaceful crossing into a desperate fight for survival. Misleading currents are the main culprit for the many shipwrecks in this area. Experienced sailors know that the Alboran Sea has a flow of water that appears calm, but that, in the depths, hides invisible forces. Stories of missing ships and boats broken in half are common, creating an atmosphere of respect for those who pass through the place. It is as if the sea has a will of its own, choosing when and how it will test those who dare to sail through its waters. The country's curiosity is what leads many to explore these waters, even knowing the hidden dangers. Among the few survivors of shipwrecks, reports of moonless nights and violent waves are frequent. Some describe the fear of being sucked into the currents and disappearing into the middle of the sea without a trace. Each story is a reminder of the strength of the Alboran Sea and human vulnerability to the ocean. For those who listen to these reports, there is a mix of fascination and terror, as there is no possible control in a place where the sea decides destiny. This stretch of water is, in a way, a test of humility and acceptance that we are nothing compared to the forces of nature. The Alboran Sea is, therefore, a territory where caution mixes with respect, a place that teaches lessons to navigators. And, leaving these unpredictable waters, we head into the snow-capped mountains of the Swiss Alps, where the peace of the heights is often interrupted by avalanches that descend without warning. The Swiss Alps are the perfect portrait of nature at its grandest. Snow-capped peaks that stand majestically, like silent guardians of the sky. But amid this mesmerizing beauty, there is a constant danger that surrounds climbers and adventurers who challenge these heights. Avalanches, as unpredictable as they are deadly, turn this idyllic landscape into a minefield of snow and ice. Curiosity about countries like Switzerland, with their fairy tale-like landscapes, often hides the brutal risk that these mountains pose to anyone who dares to explore them. The biting cold of the Alps is another challenge. Temperatures that plummet to extreme levels can affect even the most prepared, and the icy wind cuts like invisible blades. On the way up, each step requires precision, as the ice and snow hide unexpected traps. Many venture into the Alps in search of a connection with nature, but few truly understand the depth of this challenge. For those driven by curiosity about the country, the experience is a mixture of admiration and tension, a constant walk between life and imminent risk. The stories of climbers who braved the Alps are marked by courage and, in many cases, tragedy. Avalanches strike without warning, sweeping away everything in their path, and the isolation at the heights means any mistake can be fatal. For some, the challenge of the Alps is a test of endurance and faith. an opportunity to face their own limits in a setting where beauty is as dangerous as it is inspiring. Every meter conquered is a silent victory, a demonstration of strength in the face of a world that does not forgive the unprepared. The Swiss Alps teach that nature has its own laws, and that only respect and prudence can lead someone to appreciate this greatness without being overcome by it. And now, we head to a land where the danger is not in the heights or in the waters, but in a territory full of invisible threats. Angola, a country that keeps its own secrets and hidden dangers. Angola is a country of contrasts, where the beauty of the landscape meets the challenge of a territory full of invisible dangers. Between dense forests and vast fields, there are areas still marked by landmines, a legacy left by years of conflict. For those who are curious about countries that have faced battles and bear scars, Angola represents a delicate reality, where peace is recent and the soil hides deadly traps. It is as if each piece of land carries with it a silent reminder of a turbulent past, waiting for visitors to respect its history. Traveling through some regions of Angola requires caution and knowledge of safe areas. Landmines are not visible to the naked eye, but their presence is a constant risk for residents and visitors. Even with demining efforts, there are areas where a false step can have serious consequences. This is why many local guides advise adventurers to follow specific paths where safety has been established. Curiosity about the country brings to light the question of the security and resilience of a nation that is rebuilding itself while facing the challenges of the present. In addition to the mines, there is also the challenge of infrastructure in some remote regions, which makes exploring Angola an experience of both endurance and awe. Roads that get lost in the middle of nowhere, isolated cities, and limited resources are part of the adventure. Traveling through Angola is, in many ways, an encounter with a rich culture and stunning nature, but it is also a journey where preparation and respect are essential. This type of trip is for those who understand that some beauties require care and a deep understanding of what it means to venture through a land marked by invisible scars. At the end of each trip, the Angola that remains in our memory is a land of overcoming and reconstruction, where history and the present mix in a delicate balance. And, leaving this resilient land, we head to our next destination, where danger takes the form of lava that flows fast and untamed. The Nyiragongo volcano in Congo. Nyiragongo is a unique volcano, a force of nature that fascinates and terrifies in equal measure. Situated in the heart of the Congo, it holds one of the largest lava lakes in the world, an awe-inspiring vision of pure natural power. Curiosity about exotic countries and dangerous destinations leads adventurers to approach their borders. But Nyiragongo does not forgive unpreparedness. Its lava flows with unusual speed, fast as a river of fire, reminding us that the Earth itself is capable of moving with fury and unpredictability. The simple act of observing it is a reminder of human fragility in the face of primordial forces. The danger of Nyiragongo goes beyond lava. The poisonous gas released in eruptions and the ash that covers the landscape transform the volcano into a true natural battlefield. For those driven by country curiosity and the desire to experience the unknown, Nyiragongo is a test of courage and respect for nature. Even the most prepared visitor feels the weight of the hostile environment, where breathing itself becomes a risk. It is a place where caution is essential and where the slightest mistake can be fatal. This volcano has been responsible for tragedies over the years, covering villages and devastating landscapes. But despite the risks, Nyiragongo still calls on those who dare to see the lava lake, to witness the spectacle of light and heat up close. The view of the lake, incandescent and constantly moving, is almost mesmerizing. The very idea of being just meters from one of the most destructive elements on the planet creates a tension that only those who visit Nyiragongo can understand. There, the heat is as intense as the feeling of smallness in the face of an uncontrollable force. Nyiragongo represents the limit between human curiosity and the acceptance that not everything can be mastered. For those who descend from its slopes, there is a memory of an encounter with the true power of the earth. And now, we head to another end of the world, where the waters of Cape Horn, in Chile, hold secrets and storms for those who dare to challenge them. Cape Horn is known as the Navigator's Graveyard, a region where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Pacific in a clash of forces that generates some of the most hostile maritime conditions in the world. Located in the extreme south of Chile, this point is the final destination of many ships that succumb to giant waves and intense winds. For those curious about countries and their extreme borders, Cape Horn represents the pinnacle of resilience, a place where only the bravest dare to sail. Here, the ocean is relentless and demands respect from every sailor who ventures into these waters. The storms that arise at Cape Horn are legendary, appearing suddenly and sweeping away everything in their path. Hurricane-force winds and waves that rise like mountains make the crossing an experience of survival. For many navigators, reaching Cape Horn is an achievement, a mark of endurance. But for others, this cable represents the last chapter in a story of courage. Over the centuries, the country's curiosity and eagerness to explore led countless boats to challenge these waters, and not all of them managed to return to tell the story. Those who dare to face Cape Horn carry within them the spirit of discovery and the understanding that the ocean is not an opponent to be defeated, but a force to be respected. Survivors' accounts speak of endless nights, of fighting against waves, and of prayers amid the deafening noise of the sea. The experience is both terrifying and transformative, a test of courage and resilience. Cape Horn reminds each of us that there are limits we cannot control and that nature follows its own rules. After a crossing of Cape Horn, any sailor finds himself changed, with a new perspective on what it means to face the unknown. And, leaving the power of the waters behind, we head to a place where danger comes from the depths of the earth. Mount Yasur, in Vanuatu, the most active volcano in the world. Mount Yasur is a volcano in constant activity, a spectacle of force that transforms the island of Vanuatu into one of the most fascinating and risky places on the planet. Known for its regular eruptions, Mount Yasur is a destination that attracts those driven by curiosity about countries that are home to nature in its rawest form. With each explosion of lava and ash, the sky lights up with an intense red glow, like a dangerous dance that echoes the strength of the earth. Getting close to its edges is like watching a firestorm just a few meters away, an experience that challenges the senses. Around the volcano, the ground shakes and the air is thick with sulfur, creating an atmosphere that makes clear the imminent danger. For those who decide to explore Mount Yasur, the challenge goes beyond altitude. He is in the very proximity of the magma, which bubbles and burns as a reminder of the hidden power beneath our feet. The country's curiosity leads some adventurers to this point, but being there requires respect and caution, as Mount Yasur does not warn when it will unleash its fury. Every second close to its crater is a test of courage and prudence. The accounts of those who braved the heat and the risk of explosions speak of a mixture of fear and fascination. The sight of boiling lava thrown into the sky is a scene that remains engraved in memory as something between the sublime and the terrifying. Over the years, Mount Yasur has become an icon for lovers of extreme adventure, a kind of natural altar where nature displays its power without restrictions. For many, being there is like witnessing the beating heart of the earth, an intimate and dangerous connection to the forces that shape the planet. Mount Yasur teaches that even in a world of technologies and certainties, there are still places where nature remains untamed. Leaving the active volcano behind, we now head to a region where isolation and harsh weather create beauty as challenging as the waves. The Faroe Islands, in Denmark. The Faroe Islands, between Norway and Iceland, seem to float in a sea of mystery and isolation. This archipelago, with its landscapes of steep mountains and impressive cliffs, holds an almost supernatural beauty, but also a severe and unforgiving nature. For those curious about countries shrouded in legend and tradition, the Faroe Islands are a land of contrasts. There, huge and sudden waves make the sea a constant danger, and the winds often bring storms that transform the scene into a dark and enchanting spectacle at the same time. The weather in the Faroe Islands is unpredictable and can change in minutes, surprising visitors with heavy rain and dense fog that covers everything around. Local fishermen, accustomed to the raging waters, understand the respect that the sea demands, as they know that even the most experienced can be swallowed by a giant wave. Navigating or venturing through the Faroe Islands requires skill and a considerable amount of courage. Curiosity about the country, its waters, and its customs leads visitors to confront a nature that is not easily tamed. For those who explore these islands, the challenge is not just at sea. The mountainous terrain, marked by narrow trails and steep slopes, is a constant test of physical and mental endurance. The isolation of the islands creates an atmosphere of self-sufficiency. There, every step is planned, every decision is made carefully. The cold wind and loneliness make this journey a profound encounter with one's own resilience. The Faroe Islands remind adventurers that some beauty only reveals itself to those willing to brave the elements. Leaving the Faroe Islands, we now head to a place of dense greenery and absolute mystery. The next stop is the Brazilian Amazon, where the unknown hides amidst the vegetation and wildlife, challenging the limits of human survival. The Amazon is a kingdom of mystery and wildlife, a dense forest that hides secrets and dangers around every corner. For those who are curious about countries and the depths of their forests, the Amazon is the perfect setting for adventure and fascination. With an incomparable biodiversity, each tree and each stream holds life forms that seem to have come from an untouched world. But, just as it is rich in beauty, the forest also tests the body and mind, offering one of the toughest tests of survival anyone can face. Poisonous animals, silent predators, and disease-carrying insects are part of the routine in the forest. The Amazon does not forgive those who are careless, and for many, the biggest challenge lies in their lack of knowledge of the environment. The vast vegetation creates a feeling of absolute isolation, where it is easy to lose orientation and control. Those who explore the forest need preparation and knowledge, knowing that country curiosity is not enough to survive. At every step, the visitor is reminded that the Amazon is an untamed land, where nature has absolute control. The isolation of the Amazon also brings an almost frightening silence, interrupted only by the sounds of fauna. It is an environment where the slightest noise could mean the presence of a predator or a nearby river. Many survival stories tell of the fear and exhaustion of those trying to stay alive there for days, defying the humidity and oppressive heat. For those who return from this experience, the forest represents a landmark, a journey to the limits of their own resistance and resilience, where the connection with the natural world is visceral. The Amazon holds an energy that few places possess, a mix of reverence and respect for an environment that remains untouched. But, leaving the jungle, we now head to an icy and extreme land, where the cold turns the landscape itself into a survival challenge: Antarctica. Antarctica is one of the last places untouched by man, a continent of ice and absolute silence that inspires both fascination and fear. For those who are curious about inhospitable countries and territories, Antarctica is the pinnacle of nature in its purest and most merciless state. Temperatures drop to unimaginable levels, and the freezing wind cuts like an invisible blade, making it clear that survival is a privilege there. In a world where everything seems dominated, Antarctica reminds us that there are still borders where human presence is almost insignificant. Extreme cold is a constant challenge. The slightest mistake in protecting yourself properly can be fatal, as low temperatures quickly compromise the body and mind. Many explorers have already tried to cross the continent, facing an incessant struggle against ice and loneliness. For those who venture out, Antarctica is not just a destination. It is a test of endurance and courage, a journey where each step on the ice symbolizes a personal triumph over human frailty. Curiosity for the country and the search for unexplored landscapes lead these adventurers to confront the cold in a surreal setting. In addition to the cold, Antarctica offers few resources for those who venture into its lands. With vast distances and unstable weather conditions, finding shelter and food is a daily challenge. The landscape, covered in white, is stunning, but the feeling of isolation is deep and constant. Contact with the outside world is limited, and each moment is lived with minute attention. The ice underfoot seems to be a reflection of human fragility in the face of nature in its most extreme state. Antarctica is a reminder that not all destinations were made for man. Those who face the ice feel that the experience is not only physical, but also emotional and spiritual. And as we leave the frozen continent behind, we head to an equally challenging jungle, but in a contrast of green and heat. The dense and impenetrable Jungla de Darien, between Panama and Colombia. The Darien jungle is one of the most feared and mysterious places in the world. A jungle that stretches like a green labyrinth between Panama and Colombia. This stretch of dense forest is known for its almost impenetrable density. A true natural fortress where man finds himself reduced to nature. For those curious about countries and their wild regions, the Darien jungle represents a unique challenge. Entering there is like accepting an invitation into the unknown, where the dense vegetation and hidden dangers test even the most experienced. Conditions in the jungle are intense and unpredictable. With fast-flowing rivers and constant humidity, any movement requires caution. It is a place where fauna is abundant and includes everything from poisonous insects to predatory animals that lurk in silence. For many, crossing the Darien jungle is an act of courage and endurance, a chance to test one's physical and mental limits. But we must remember that country curiosity is not enough to face the jungle. Preparation and a clear understanding of the risks involved are necessary. Stories of survival in the Darien jungle are marked by tension and challenges. Those who have braved the jungle speak of days when light barely passes through the trees and the sense of time is lost. The vegetation, always dense and humid, creates a claustrophobic atmosphere where the slightest mistake could mean the end of the journey. Many travelers rely on intuition as their only guide, trusting their own ability to find their way through thick vegetation. Each step is a lesson in patience and resilience, a lesson in humility in the face of an environment that dominates everything around it. The Jungla of Darien is a territory for the bold, for those who accept the unknown as a master and not as an opponent. And as we emerge from this green labyrinth, we head into the vibrant, treacherous waters of the Red Sea, where danger comes from both the depths and surface currents. The Red Sea is a paradise of vibrant colors and biodiversity, but it also holds dangers that only the most attentive can perceive. This sea, famous for its coral reefs and crystal-clear waters, attracts divers from all over the world in search of its underwater beauty. But for those driven by curiosity about countries and their natural wonders, the Red Sea presents a duality. The allure of its waters hides treacherous currents and the constant presence of sharks. There, the ocean reveals both its enchanting face and its merciless nature. Currents in the Red Sea are especially dangerous for less experienced divers and swimmers. Often, they appear unexpectedly, dragging the unwary away from the coast or support vessels. The sea, which at first glance seems calm and welcoming, turns into a labyrinth of choppy waters. Every explorer who ventures there must respect the sea and understand the warning signs. The country's curiosity, combined with respect for the environment, is fundamental for a safe and enriching experience on the Red Sea. In addition to the currents, the Red Sea is home to a varied marine fauna, including species of sharks that patrol its waters. These predators, while fascinating, are a constant reminder that the ocean does not belong to humans. Encounters with sharks are rare, but for those who dive in the Red Sea, the possibility of a sighting creates an atmosphere of tension and excitement. The beauty of the sea and the potential for danger go hand in hand, making each dive an exciting and unforgettable experience. The Red Sea teaches us that true adventure is not just contemplating nature, but respecting its limits and understanding that each environment has its own rules. And as we emerge from these fascinating waters, we reach the final point of our journey, where we reflect on what drives us to explore danger and seek the unknown. Exploring the world is an adventure full of discoveries, and for some, the search for danger becomes the main objective. But what makes us want to be face-to-face with risk? For many, the attraction to the unknown and the curiosity about countries with extreme landscapes reveals something deeper, a desire to surpass our own limits, to discover what exists beyond safety. Places like Chernobyl, Mount Everest, and the Red Sea show us that, for those willing to take the risk, each trip is a lesson in courage and self-discovery. When we face danger, fear becomes a kind of guide, a force that reveals aspects of ourselves that we were unaware of. These dangerous adventures, which test our endurance and challenge our perception of control, become experiences that go beyond words. It is as if, when facing the unknown, we come face to face with something intangible, an almost spiritual connection with the natural world and with our own essence. Each dangerous destination is an invitation to an inner dialogue, a meeting between who we are and who we aspire to be. But the search for danger also teaches us about respect. Respect the power of nature, understand its limits, and recognize that we do not own the environment we explore. This is a lesson that all explorers learn, often at the cost of hardship and sacrifice. And, for those who return from these trips, the memory of inhospitable places and the experience of facing danger bring a new perspective on the world. The search for the unknown transforms us, revealing a world that cannot be tamed, only admired and respected. Now, it's up to you to decide. Would you have the courage to face these challenges? Does this journey inspire you to look beyond the ordinary and embrace the unknown? If the answer is yes, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and prepare for new stories and destinations that will challenge your view of the world. The adventure continues, and the next destination awaits.
Hey explorers, if you love discovering the amazing curiosities and stories we share here on Exploring Nations, how about supporting the channel with just $1? This small gesture can make a big difference and is essential to keep this content going. Without your support, our journey might be cut short. And there's more. When you shop on Amazon, use our special link. It costs you nothing extra, plus you get an exclusive discount and it helps us out a lot. The links for donations and Amazon are pinned in the first comment. Don't let this adventure stop, we're counting on you. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and drop us a comment.